Indeed loaded into the game here, my friend.
Indeed, we are.
So it begins.
Alright, spawning in on the left side, it is going to be Beastyqt playing as the blue HRE, and on the right side, it is LucifroN playing as the Rus in red. Match point for Beasty, he's playing for a spot in the grand finals of the third stage of Golden League. Whereas on the other side for LucifroN, so far his best run in the tournament, and it's far from being over yet because he has shown some really good signs of gameplay today, but obviously he's down one game right now.
Yeah, he's only down one game, and I mean the other games, I would say with the exception of one of the first ones that he did drop, were like the last game was certainly winnable for him. I mean, he had good map control, he was keeping Delhi off the sacred sites, but just like one little blunder with his army kind of overextending in the top corner, which he had a good play there. He had chased the Delhi villagers to the corner, got some kills, wiped out a lot of army, but he kind of overstayed his welcome. And at these higher levels, players are gonna certainly pounce on any sort of mistakes you make like that. So Rus here immediately herding some of the wolves around, so he does have a wolf chasing him. Going to be looking for that sweet bounty. Has two wolves on the other side, also some sheep. So a decent start here for the Rus.
Yeah, it looks like we do have two scouts out there for Beast. He's going to pick up one of his hunts. The concern here for the Rus, I think, is that one of the hunts is always going to spawn right next to the enemy base. So for you, it's impossible to pick that up. And if the opponent finds his second hunt really fast, you'll be restricted to only 2 patches of deer. Obviously, you could still work for the wolves, but Beast is also quite successful finding sheep. So unless you find a decent amount of wolves over here for LucifroN, your bounty isn't going to be spectacular. Now, if you plan to play the boar, that's not a problem because you should still reach tier 2 with the boar. Yes. But if you don't play boar and you don't find a lot of wolves, that could be a source of concern. He's at 160 though already, and he's got 2 more wolves chasing him, so I guess he was pretty successful finding those predators at least.
Yeah, he's been able to hunt down the beasts, and it looks like there's a pretty cozy boar here on the southwest corner of the map. That would certainly be a relatively safe position. Could easily set up a wooden palisade right to the north of that, which would block out any HRE aggression, also secure you a sacred site and a relic in the southwest corner. So that looks like a pretty ideal position. It's not like he has to go in the middle of the map for the boar, which would be a very heavily contested area. And also nice micro here by LucifroN, so making sure to pull back every couple seconds so that the aggro from the wolves remains.
That's an interesting point that you bring up over here with that boar, because oftentimes taking the boar as your source of food is just one piece of the equation. Because sometimes you also use that position as a proxy base. Now, you couldn't do that with this boar, but as you pointed out, it's so safe that it is essentially going to be a great source of food for you, and you will just skip the idea of going for a proxy base on the forehand. So I actually like this boar spot a lot. Obviously, you have to alter your game plan a tiny bit here because you're not going to play forward base, even if your initial idea was to do that. But that board is just so safe on that southern part of the map that it's almost something that you can't miss on. It's appealing, it's 2,000 food that you can take, very safe. You can't miss out on something like that.
Certainly, my friend. It looks like at 3 minutes and 22 seconds, we're going to be seeing the first of the Feudal Age pushes, which is usually indicative of a more kind of, I would say like more aggressive builds that are looking to really go pedal to the metal, as they say, would usually be going around 240, sometimes as early as 230 here, but it looks like we are going to be having our Feudal Golden Gate for the Rus. Golden Gate, an incredibly solid landmark for anybody who's new to the game. It essentially allows you to trade resources at a very favorable rate with limited charges. And the Aachen Chapel coming down, is it going to be a god tier Aachen Chapel? Does not quite look like it. It's not hitting the golds in the back. Unfortunately, the gold node did spawn in a little bit of a precarious position, but it is right next to a deer camp with a mill. It's also supporting the lumber villagers, and overall, it's not a bad Aachen, as it might be able to reach that stone as well.
Yeah, this is what I'm looking at. It's actually touching the stone, and as I said, Beasty has seen a build from Viper with 2 town centers, and if you play a 2 town center HRE build, you kind of need the stone and your Aachen Chapel to be on that stone. I don't think that Beast is going to do that right now, but as you said, it's a slightly awkward placement for the Aachen Chapel. It is on the wood and it is on the hunt, and it's partially touching the stone as well, so he's going to have that option. But I would think that he's not going to play 2 town centers over here. I would be very surprised if he did.
Yeah, I feel like that's, and like you articulated earlier about Beasty, he usually plays the more, kind of direct builds, the more meta type stuff is what you were saying. So in this case, I would wager based on that and based on what I've seen so far is we would be seeing like a more traditional get to the Castle Age, you get those Regnant's relics, and just, overrun your opponent with just massive amounts of gold and just heavy, heavy duty steel and armor, which I think is the most heavy metal way to play the Holy Romans for sure.
Yeah, looks like villagers are moving out towards the gold and the food as well. So
Yeah.
it is just going to be a straight Castle Age here. And this is something that LucifroN is going to see. So LucifroN knows fully well that this is a thing over here. Looks like the villagers do get a surround on the scout.
Almost, yeah. It's certainly hard to surround for sure in this game. It can be done, but compared to some other RTS games in Age of Empires, like surrounding individual units is actually quite tough. And look at this. We got a forward boar camp. So he's going to be going for the aggressive boar. A wooden fortress in his opponent's face isn't bad. And also, what's kind of cool about this is if he sets up a wooden fortress to the south of that boar, the wooden fortress will also cover that relic there. So when the Holy Romans go to get that relic, he could jump the villagers in, maybe snipe the prelate. It has some cool kind of options there in that position.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that boar is also close to that forest, so you can place your hunting cabin close to the forest for a nice passive gold recall. This is also going to be a great thing to act as a forward base, and you also save that boar on the south for future times. So he's gonna have the option to take that second boar. Right now, his opponent is not contesting map control, so he could easily take this more exposed boar and then fall back to one later, and it looks like we're going to see some spearmen being added here by Beasty. So he's not going to go straight to Castle Age yet. LucifroN has to respect the fact that there could be some pressure coming his way. So he's going to need a defensive tower on that hunt ASAP.
It looks like, I feel like Beasty, when we perhaps weren't looking, may have scouted that stables back there. And that's one of the reasons why he went with an initial spearman opening, right? Because I feel like most Holy Romans do go with horsemen very, very quickly, but obviously we're going to be seeing knight archers, so I would imagine Beasty's probably going to go stables as well and just go spearmen and horsemen to try and shut this down.
Yeah, that could be a thing. He's getting close to Castle Age already, whereas we're seeing double ranges come up for LucifroN. The concern here is that if Beasty gets to Castle Age fast, he could easily get himself a couple of men-at-arms to deal with that, or some knights. First knight, though, coming in here for LucifroN. That's only a Dark Age spearman we're looking at, so this is a fight that the knight can take. Not against the second spearman, though, so Beasty's not going to lose villagers here. But he's losing precious time. Idle time over here is going to delay his Castle Age, and LucifroN is going to start amassing archers. He's also mixing in some knights to this party. And you get the feel that Beasty is going to have a hard time getting Castle Age and getting relics as well.
Yeah. Oh my god, could we see the Burgrave Palace? Yes, it's happening!
Yeah.
I knew it!
Oh, love
I
it.
feel it in my bones. So he's going to power build that bad boy, and that's going to be certainly a good source of aggression. There's going to be a lot of men-at-arms coming out very quickly, and I believe it does also do the upgrades 400% faster as well. So you can
it's
get
grabbing
those
the
men-at-arms
upgrades really fast.
Yeah. Oh man, hype.
Now,
this is great.
This is exactly how you want to play super aggressive early castle with the HRE, because if you want to just spam infantry in mid Castle Age, you will have enough barracks by that time. You're doing this because you want to start spamming infantry when you get to Castle Age, and you also know that you won't be able to get relics early on, especially with that plot being picked off by the knights. But with that Burgrave Palace up, you can start spamming out infantry, and I mean, if you get yourself a couple of relics, you can still put them into a monastery and get a decent amount of gold income from those. The concern here is that this Burgrave Palace is still unfinished, and LucifroN is building up a substantial force pretty soon.
Yeah, he certainly is. LucifroN also has a little bit of an eco advantage, and there's been a lot of idle time. Not idle per se, but these villagers have been building, and so LucifroN is going to have a little bit more of a steady economy. But if we could see a bunch of men-at-arms come out, start to push the Rus back, and maybe punish that boar extension there, maybe the Holy Romans could really benefit from this Burgrave. But I'm excited to see how this does. I think this is one of the first times I've seen the Burgrave Palace used in a competitive game, so we'll have to see what kind of fruit it bears here.
Yeah, and you see, the men-at-arms upgrade, the Castle Age one, is already done. It took like 5 seconds. It's ridiculously fast. The question is, can you afford to continuously produce stuff on it? And that's the problem that Beast is facing. Look at that. 17 food in the bank, 12 wood. Yeah, you have an insane level of production, but if you can't afford it, that's a problem. And look at LucifroN's resources. He's capitalizing on that boar. He's getting close to Castle Age himself. I would love to see how many tickets he has on the Golden Gate, because if he has free, he could just buy himself up to castle instantly.
Yeah, he'd have to sell a little bit of food, though, most likely, or maybe wood. Yeah, he's got 3 tickets here, so he's just going to be doing that. And it looks like we have our first exchange. Yep, he just did it right as you said that. And now he's going to be going castle. And, honestly, LucifroN's looking to be in a pretty good position. The Burgrave can't really do a whole lot here. We do have a blacksmith coming out for the Holy Romans, most likely to get some combat upgrades for the men-at-arms. And the Abbey of the Trinity, I would expect, is going to be the landmark. to deny the Holy Romans what little relics are left left near their base there.
And now, the infantry is building up here for Beasty, but the window is closing, especially if you consider the fact that his opponent is going to be on 4 archer ranges already. So, the moment Castle Age kicks in for LucifroN, he can start adding crossbows to deal with all of those men-at-arms, and he already has a decent amount of archers to deal with the spears. Plus, he's gonna have the warrior monks to start picking up relics with, and if you look at the relic spots, I mean, those are right now pretty juicy. For LucifroN, looks like Beast is going to wall off 1 on the south, so at least he's going to have 1, maybe 2. But he's not going to get the Ragnitz Cathedral boost from it. This is problematic for Beasty because his power spike is supposed to be right in this moment with the Burgrave Palace, and it's not there yet.
Yeah, this is incredibly tough, and like he's been pinned in his base by all these feudal age units for a long time. So even despite the investment in the Burgrave, which is going to be producing all these, big thick men at arms here, they're not even able to push away the pressure with which, they were intended to deal with. So, yeah, and relic split, we got 1 relic on the western side of the map that Beasty certainly has walled off. There's 1 contested in the middle, which the Rus will for sure get. And LucifroN, with proper control and, obviously focus, I think should be able to get most of those relics and really just massively skyrocket ahead. I believe he's got an eco advantage. The military is about equal, but again, the map control he's about to get on top of the sacred sites as well. That's going to be really punishing for sure. And look at this, he's even torching the Aachen Chapel.
It's not gonna do much, but I mean, at least it's going to be some psychological warfare implemented. It's more important that he's denying those lumberjacks. Beast is up to 11 men-at-arms, and on the other side you're seeing some horse archers being mixed in. And this is the power that you're also getting from that boar for LucifroN. He took that boar down, he still has his hunt back at home, he still has the second boar on the south, whereas for Beasty, I mean, he's taking berries, which is always a sad thing to see.
Yeah, it's pretty grim tidings there. Obviously, if you're playing the HRE, you're going to want, the pro scouts dropping deer under the Aachen Chapel, or maybe even having farms there. Hey, and it looks like Relics going to be grabbing one of the relics here, although the Rus are relatively close by. And hey, we're even seeing some horse archers mixed in. I'm having flashbacks to 4 months ago when the horse archers were quite tyrannical, but they're going to be going right through the front gate. Holy Romans, I do not know if they even have the mace upgrades yet, which would make them quite a bit more effective against those knights, but certainly something I would imagine. Yep, BC's getting it right now, so he'll be ready to take a fight very soon. And nice counterattack from the men-at-arms down here.
Yeah, that's a great one, and that's going to deny a lot of access to the hunt over here. Crossbows should be able to deal with this one, but that's actually a pretty good start over here. And, the Warrior Monk also getting some hits on himself. Looks like there is enough forces over here back at home to hold this one, but the horse archers will be just so annoying at the back. And you see all of those villagers moving to the south here from Beasty. His army is harassing the enemy base, which means that it's not there to defend.
Yeah, he still has some at home, though. He's got a couple spears and men-at-arms, and as long as he can stay away from the archers, he'll most likely be okay. He does also force a lot of villagers back for the Rus, which is certainly nice. Eco count is similar. So, though the Rus do have an advantage here, it's certainly not point of no return. Horse archers being menacing in the base, although not doing a ton of damage. And we do get a forward tower, and look at that! He actually put the relic in that forward outpost to give it the benefits of the Holy Romans, and that's not something you see terribly often, but with Burgrave, it certainly makes sense.
Yeah, it's a great thing. I mean, the tower is also cheaper than just making a monastery for yourself, because you can make the prelates from the town center, so you make the prelates from the TC, placed in the tower, works fine. If you have a castle in the future, you can also place it there. Warrior Monk, he might actually think about the Vololo here. Nope.
Yeah,
he's just gonna ignore them.
I think he's gonna make it. He just barely got it, and he's gonna get healed by his buddy there, so I think he'll be fine. But overall, it looks like Beasty did get a second relic up on the top of the map, which he brought back. So I think in total he got 2 to the Rus's 3, which honestly, considering the circumstances, isn't a bad split. And the men-at-arms here not having a terrible trade against some of those knights. But yeah, Holy Romans with a good farm economy, perhaps under the Aachen as they transition to a later stage, maybe could get back in this economically speaking. Holy Romans are a little bit ahead in terms of gold and also food compared to the Rus. So maybe it's not as bad as it perhaps looks, although sacred sites now are going to come into play.
Yeah, the thing is that LucifroN's villagers on food were just harassed so much. He had to abandon both of his hunts, so he's only just now starting to build that up. Oh, look at that! Now that is a juicy move there by LucifroN. The quick wall's coming clutch.
Yeah, that was a really quick wall for sure, blocking out those men-at-arms, which certainly will bring a little bit of a peace of mind to the Rus villagers there. But looking across the old map, certainly the calm before the storm. Most of the harass has died down from both players. Marchers in the back of the base, and it looks like that second relic. I wonder where he's going to put that. Yeah, it looks like in the tower there. Is he building an arrow slit? Oh, it looks like he is. Wow. And here comes the middle sacred site.
Yeah, crossbow numbers are increasing though, and there is no response here for Beastyqt for that. He only has men-at-arms. That's the only unit he has. Horse archers roaming around. Gotta love that tower though with the relic inside. For those of you that don't know it, the way it works is that you get extra range and I think extra firepower as well on your towers for the HRE with the relic inside. So it actually buffs up those towers quite well.
It also adds some durability too. I believe it has some defensive parameters to it. It's something that like is so uncommon that I don't know it off the top of my head. But nonetheless, a little bit of a night harass here in the front, but the Holy Romans are mixing in some crossbows of their own. And, you know, I feel like if any civ can get away with spamming men-at-arms against their theoretical counters, it probably is the Holy Romans, you know, with marching drills and some of the nice upgrades you get in Imperial Age, like the elite army tactics. You know, I feel like they can get away with it more than anyone else. Obviously, they still will be killed quickly by crossbows, but here comes the tower with the arrow slits poking into those crossbows, looking to shut down the berries out here. And Holy Romans might be getting to a point in the game where they actually have to pull back and set up a farm economy in their base, because I don't think they have too much food left on the map aside from some berry bushes, and that's pretty much it. Oh, nice harass back here.
Yeah, that's a lot of harassment. I saw those men-at-arms before, but I was like, oh yeah, sure enough, LucifroN dealt with them. The problem that LucifroN is facing here is that the men-at-arms with the maces, they do pretty well against the knights. So
yeah,
it's going to be annoying to deal with them. You can't just send in your knights because the men-at-arms will trade fairly well. Looks like the cleanup is there, but LucifroN is being delayed so much by all these raids by these men-at-arms. He needs to get some wars up on the flanks potentially. But as you pointed out, once he can focus his attention to the push, it's gonna be a completely different story.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. 2 sacred sites already taken. The 3rd sacred site is very much an option, which is going to be putting a heavy timer on the Holy Romans. And, you know, the Holy Roman harass with these men-at-arms, like you said, has been incredibly effective. He's been pushing back and taking some of the attention off the main aggression on his base. But when the sacred sites come into play and the Rus should probably build wooden palisades to kind of wall the Holy Romans away from them, that could be really, really tough. But it looks like the crossbows and knights may be looking to get into that farm economy, because if you don't punish the Holy Romans right now and they're allowed to get that Aachen farm economy going, they are going to blow the Rus out of the water in terms of food income.
LucifroN has added the 2nd town center for himself, actually. So part of the reason why he slowed down with that bush is because now he's up to 2 town centers. Oh, he's jumping in and out of that tower. But once again, these men-at-arms are just so annoying for him, and it's setting him back so much. He's only up by 3 villagers. Obviously, he also has to micro the warrior monk out there. He's like,
I love it, dude. Yeah, that takes a lot of effort. Looks like the one on the south side is going to be captured as well. And even if the Rus do have the double TC, if somehow the Holy Romans can bounce their economy, you know, they do have their relics. Perhaps buy their way to the Imperial Age. Even though it did get nerfed, the epic tier 4 palace there. What is that landmark called? The not Elsbach Palace.
No, the Palace of Swabia. Yeah.
Swabia, yeah. If he's able to get that, then he could catch up super quick.
3 sacred sites now under the control of LucifroN, so that puts Beastyqt on a timer, but it's not a super serious timer we're talking about. Those 3 sacred sites are spread all across the map over here indeed. This one is gonna be a very short-lived timer. The man-at-arms should decap it. Still, LucifroN gets some nice passive gold from the other 2 sacred sites. But that's a great point that you brought up. Palace of Swabia was nerfed, but it's still powerful, so LucifroN, he has a limited amount of time to capitalize on that 2nd town center, especially given the fact that Beastyqt is floating 1700 gold. So if that farming eco starts kicking in with the Aachen Chapel, he could easily get to Imperial.
He could certainly get back in the game, and it looks like there was a decap up in the north, so some of the men-at-arms finally defeated the warrior monk who he was having a nice little waltz with on that objective. And now they're heading down the side of the map to do a little bit more back of the base harass. But the Rus army is quite a bit stronger. It looks like 29 supply against 21. Eco advantage is 61 to 54, which actually isn't that big of a difference. And it looks like Beastyqt is going to be saving up right now. He's got about 1,000 food, 1,300. I believe he actually bought some food. So he's slowly kind of working his way towards Imperial. At which point the Holy Romans just need to make a Helm's Deep, get the villager printer going, and then try and come back from there with some elite men-at-arms, because that's actually kind of cool too. Like when Holy Romans hit Imperial, if they have the gold for it, they could upgrade their elite men-at-arms like instantly with the Burgrave Palace. So they won't need more barracks either.
Yeah, that's a great point indeed. Burgrave Palace definitely helps with those upgrades, and now that you have the eco for it, that Burgrave Palace also helps spamming out that infantry. Crossbows once again having to be pulled back. This is the biggest problem for LucifroN right now. He's just losing so much time on all those small groups of men-at-arms running into his eco. Every time he has to pull back his crossbows, and now Beastyqt is stonewalling himself on the north. He's preparing for a long game. A long game that LucifroN isn't really set up for.
Yeah, certainly. And that palace is coming and nice decaps here. So he's got more men-at-arms decapping down in the south side, trying to deny the Rus any advantages they can have, as the other 2 men-at-arms are going to be moving down. And, a lot of people would probably just stand on that objective with 3 men-at-arms, right? But he's like moving 2 down to harass, really kind of squeezing every morsel of value he can out of these units. But the Rus look like they're setting up for some forward aggression. We have battering rams coming down. Look at the Rus villagers coming to try and wall this off, but the men-at-arms are too fast and too thick, and they are going to get through those walls and serve as a further nuisance. Holy Romans also have that keep there too, which will buy them plenty of time to get the villager printer going. And ladies and gentlemen, we have Imperial Age coming for the Holy Roman Empire.
That's exactly it. So now LucifroN is on a timer, and as you pointed out, that castle is helping so much, because if it wasn't there, the moment Beastyqt gets to Imperial, LucifroN launches his assault. But now that the castle is there, it's going to be difficult to break. Especially because one thing that should not be overlooked is that we're looking at an HRE game, which means that emergency repairs is also an option for Beastyqt. So taking down that castle is going to be insanely difficult for LucifroN. And then, of course, behind that one, he still needs to do some damage before his opponent gets to Imperial, or right after that. Because I feel like Beastyqt is now pulling ahead quite a bit. So the window is shrinking rapidly for LucifroN.
Certainly is. I mean, looking at the economic aspects of the game, 1,300 food for Beastyqt, 500 or 600 for LucifroN. Gold advantage for the Rus with the relics and the sacred sites, of course. But I do like that forward keep quite a bit from LucifroN. So he set up a keep up on the hill by the Holy Roman farms, and he could potentially set up some trebuchets back there and really start punishing the eco here of the Holy Romans, and also is pushing some villagers off. But with those Aachen farms going and elite men-at-arms coming out, especially if he's able to get elite army tactics, man, he is going to put some serious pressure. And of course, emergency repairs are going to buy him a ton of time for all this.
The concern here for Beastyqt could be the lumberjacks, because both of his forests are actually exposed, and Altai is a map where you don't have a plenty of wood. And if that castle is able to deny both of those forests, which I think it is actually capable of, then suddenly making siege weapons is going to be insanely difficult here for Beastyqt, and that could buy a lot of time for LucifroN to get up to Imperial Age himself. Looks like, oh, now the castle is going to get the relic. That's going to buff up that castle to the skies. The range on that is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's very cost effective. It kind of turns it into a Walmart version of the English landmark, which is of course has incredible range and can outrange artillery and things like that. But we'll see. Villager count is now 72 to 79. Beastyqt of course printing villagers, but has been losing some. I do really like the trebuchet positioning. It's going to be pressuring in, and if that trebuchet can actually hammer down the Aachen, that might actually be nice for denying a little bit of eco. But the Holy Romans are starting to amass a decent military, although they have a lot to catch up with the 45 of LucifroN against the 25 here of Beastyqt.
Beastyqt is struggling to access wood though, and that could be a concern. If that is the play that you're doing over here, you might actually target the farms. That might be weird, but if you think about that, how will you replace the farms here for Beastyqt if you run out of wood? Now, for now, Beastyqt does have some wood to work with, but you see, he's essentially chopping down the stealth forest because he is not gonna have access to those forests for a long time. Emergency repairs coming in for the Aachen Chapel. That's going to buy some time for Beastyqt. But if you could take down the Aachen Chapel, that would be a jackpot for LucifroN. He's banking up resources for Imp as well.
Yeah, he certainly is. It looks like, oh, is that going to be? Oh, I thought it was the Spaskaya right there. No. That would have been pretty cool with like the cannon towers and all that stuff, but it looks like the Aachen Chapel's in a little bit of danger. I believe the trebuchets have gotten quite a bit of HP off it, but the emergency repairs did go down. But we have our first bombard cannon coming out, so they're no longer the turbo bombards of old, but they should be able to put some hurt on the castles and or snipe a trebuchet here. Holy Romans also consistently producing elite men-at-arms. And I believe the Rus are still sitting in the castle age, though they have crossbows, which will be decent against them still.
Yeah, this is where the Rus will have to consider switching to Streltsy in the long run, because they'll be more than happy fighting mass infantry with the Streltsy that they have. Trebuchets surviving for some time. The second castle goes up here for LucifroN. Now it's Imperial Age time. Likely with the high armory, indeed, that is going to be the case. LucifroN is back in this game. For some time it looked pretty grim for him that his opponent is up to Imperial and he's nowhere close. He's back on track. Denying that would actually bought him a lot of precious time.
Certainly, and it looks like the Rus Knight's going to be going for a dive, trying to shut down the bombard cannon, but they're met with a hail of bolt fire as they move in. A couple knights going down, also some men-at-arms. But certainly a very, very scrappy game. We see 89 villagers, 90 villagers to 91 of LucifroN. Beastyqt pretty much has essentially caught up in terms of villager count, and has Aachen and his relics, but the Rus do have the 2 sacred sites, which is going to be helping quite a bit. Army size also has been favored now for Beastyqt, so Beastyqt has surpassed him in army size, and his villagers have caught up. That is the power of the Tier 4 HRE. They're certainly starting to pack a lot of steel. The Rus will be catching up relatively soon, just now, but they still have to wait for their upgrades, right?
Yeah, they do have to wait for the upgrades. Let's see the units that are being added. Actually, a Horseman switch coming in here for LucifroN gets cancelled. I guess he saw the crossbows and he wanted to switch into that. The Streltsy would be the best unit for him. Is now actually grabbing the Horseman upgrade. So he wants to go for Horseman here. And you see the moment that LucifroN gets to Imperial, Beasty knows it's time to push. He's going to take down one of those keeps. And he's got momentum right now. This is the push that he has to make something with. Because if LucifroN gets the upgrades...
Oh, 100%, brother. And Beasty here with an excellent, excellent hold, and now is putting the pressure on him. And with the Burgrave Palace, baby, he's going to be able to keep producing those men-at-arms all day, super quick. Maybe we'll even see some floppy hat boys come out. Those are some of my favorite units in the game. Nice Horseman surround there by LucifroN, though. He gets a little bit of a Horseman flank on those archers, but a critical mass plus some men-at-arms there, able to peel those guys off. And tons of villagers are also going to be going down for the Rus that were up repairing. So you can see now Beasty has 103 villagers against 95 for LucifroN, and the numbers are dropping very, very quickly. And those bombards, man, they have some serious weight and are really, really putting some hurting on the Rus entrenchments.
Yeah, and the thing is that the Horsemen will struggle a lot against those men-at-arms. The men-at-arms are lacking the 200 weapons upgrade, which would help them against the Horsemen. But look at this. It's just better numbers right now for Beasty, and he now has the high armory exposed. So he could just roll up with the bombards, take down the high armory, take down all those siege workshops, and I just don't understand. I just don't understand LucifroN's idea here. He wanted to go so heavy on the siege, but he doesn't have the tools to protect it right now. And you get the feel that all of those siege workshops will be for nothing over here.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the Horsemen here. I mean, that's it seems that's what he's still consistently producing, and they just do so little damage against the men-at-arms. The men-at-arms just don't care. They just march through it, and they're killing all the spring ults, which allows the bombards to do it. And Beasty coming in with the steel chair, baby, with the 3-1 victory over LucifroN. That was an amazing comeback.
Yeah, very nicely played over here by Beasty. And it all started with those men-at-arms raids. He was able to delay LucifroN so much. I mean, LucifroN wanted to make a push at the beginning of Castle Age, and he couldn't do it until the beginning of Imperial Age, simply because he was so busy cleaning up all that aggression inside his base. And then the moment he gets to Imperial, that's where Beasty realizes that, okay, he needs to push right now before the opponent gets the upgrades. And as you said, the Burgrave Palace comes into play, because suddenly you are in the need of a massive infantry flood. How about having a building that produces infantry so fast that the opponent really has no time to catch up in terms of numbers?
Yeah, the Burgrave was pretty heavy metal there. And you know, interestingly enough, you always look at the two landmarks and you're like, yeah, Regnets will always scale better. But I mean, it would have probably scaled better had it been an optimal situation. But considering the pressure he was under, the Burgrave actually scaled pretty well. He got to Imperial Age with an amazing farm economy and decent gold, which could sustain the mass production from the Burgrave Palace. And he was just cackling and making men-at-arms. And you could see the Horsemen and the Rus really just couldn't stop that pressure. And the bombards were just so good. The spring ults of the Rus couldn't stand it because of the men-at-arms diving, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful hold there. I honestly thought Beasty was in some serious danger, but he really showed that he's just a super talented player, excellent hold, and you know, playing a relatively underrepresented Civ there with the Holy Romans and doing some fine work.
Yeah, he reused all the powers of the HRE to his advantage. So, as you pointed out, he wasn't sure that he was going to be able to get a lot of relics, so he went for the Burgrave Palace instead, and then the towers, and after that the castle having the relic garrisoned inside, emergency repairs being used. Those are the elements that HRE need to be successful. And when you can use all of those combined, you see it's a super powerful civilization. And with that, Beasty takes the win, gets into the grand finals tomorrow. The opponent is yet to be found, though, because we do have one more set for the day.